is a video on how it went for the 1 hour build. Some things real quick. Some negatives that I noticed is the big one. I made the top too big, and as a result, it didn't fit in my planer. So I had to hand plane the entire surface and clean it of glue by hand. It's a little tedious. It did take up a lot of the time. The other thing I noticed too is because I glued it in a really warm area, which was the boiler room in my house, some of the wood did crack and started to check. So it started to separate down the center. I wish I had addressed that before the build a little bit better, because now I actually have to go back and wood fill and glue up, well, sand off all the wood fill and glue after the build. The other things that I noticed was I should have taken my time when I cut the mortises for the mortise and tenon joint. They didn't really fit very well. Mechanically they fit, but there were a lot of gaps in it. So next time I do cut mortise and tenons, I should try to take more time doing it. The other thing is it did not match up with the designs, so I cut a wedge because I noticed in cutting the tenons that the key, so if the tenon was 3/4, the key would have to be somewhere between 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch. And I felt that was too small to make the bench sturdy. So instead I went with the wedges, which I've always done before. So again, that's a change I made on the fly. The other one is I've actually tapered on the wrong side of the bench. In reality, you shouldn't be taking away material from your feet, but that's just how it came out in the project. Other things that kind of went wrong is the bandsaw was one of the only tools that I didn't double check in tuning, and as a result, the arcs cut in the bottom are at like a 4-degree angle, so they didn't really cut very well when I was trying to use the rotor rasp on my drill press. So that was another thing. So, and the moral of the story is I did have about 2 hours of prep time beforehand, setting up all the machines, making sure everything was plugged in, making sure everything was perfectly square. But I think I need to be a little more thorough in my tool setup, making sure that, obviously the bandsaw is square, the table saw is ready to go, because there were some hiccups that did take away from some of the time. But the benefit was, since everything was plugged in and ready to go, it wasn't that hard to just get into it. The other thing was dust collection. I need to come up with a better way to collect dust while doing the projects. Specifically the sanders, I forgot to plug in the sanders to a smaller dust collection system, and as a result, dust was kicked all around the shop. And I spent a good portion after the video cleaning the entire shop of all that fine dust. So moral of the story is plug in the sander to dust collection, because it was that was a lot of dust. Overall though, I think this was a very successful project, and I look forward to doing more of these videos in the future. Things that did go right was creating just a simple tapering jig on the bandsaw worked very well. So again, I just cut a piece of wood at, I think it was a 4-degree angle, 4 or 5, and that allowed me to easily taper my pieces on the table saw. The other thing that worked kind of well was on my router table. To cut the dado to exactly 3/4, I used a template piece. So the problem is the bit in the table can only go up to a 1/2 inch because it's a 1/2 inch shank. So what I did was I set it to its maximum, so 3 3/4, cut that measurement, and then I put this spacer in with the piece, and what that did was it moved it over a 1/4 inch. So a 1/2 inch plus a 1/4 is 3/4. The only problem is I think this was off by a 1/64 or a 32nd of an inch, and it didn't really allow me to get my workpiece in, so I had to go back and re-true it again. So in the future, I think I'm going to make a dedicated piece, not out of wood, but maybe out of like a plastic so it doesn't change in shape, so that I always have that at my router table. Besides that, I'm looking forward to the next project. So again, submit any ideas you guys have in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.